One of the dumbest pieces of advice I've ever heard is just don't care what people think. Anytime I hear people talk about the fear of judgment, sometimes the advice that's given is just terrible. Just don't care what people think. Yeah, that's the goal, right? But I just don't think that's realistic for most of us. And I know how hard it can be to put stuff out there and be worried about what people are going to think and be worried about what people are going to say. But I do think we have to work in that direction. Now, are you ever going to get to the place where you don't care what people think? I don't know. I'm not there yet, but I do know I'm in a much better place than I was when I first started this journey. Podcast Growth Nation, today for episode number 144. Don't let fear of judgment be the thing that kills your podcast. I wanted to revisit this topic because I did an episode back in the day, and that is one of the highest listened to episodes, if that's how you say it, that we've done at Podcast Growth University. So I figure, well, there's got to be a mindset component to that, and I think this is one of the most common reasons people don't succeed. Yeah, the fear of judgment is real. The fear of rejection is real. The fear of failure is real, and I think a lot of the advice that people give just doesn't work, at least from my perspective. So my goal today is to talk about how to actually work with. I didn't say get over. I didn't say eliminate. Work with the fear of judgment, especially if it's something you're still working through. So one of the understandings that has helped me a ton, because again, I started this in 2017. I was not a great speaker. I didn't really understand what I was talking about yet. This was a passion project. I didn't have any public speaking experience. And I had an identity of someone who was kind of a bodybuilding bro, for lack of better phrasing, who's now talking about self-improvement and personal development. I was definitely afraid of judgment. But I think one of the things that we really have to lean into is, one, how would you sell what you do to yourself if you didn't believe in it? And I know that might seem like a really weird thing. But the reason I phrase it that way is you're probably super passionate about the thing that you're doing because you're willing to push through the fear of judgment to do it. If you can convince yourself of why the thing is so valuable, I think it just gets easier to understand why other people don't see the value in it. There are a lot of people that aren't going to listen to this, but there are a lot of people that would listen to this and say, that is the dumbest thing ever. A podcast about how to podcast. That's stupid. This is deeply meaningful to me. Deeply, deeply, deeply meaningful. I love this. This is a dream come true. I want to be the type of person I needed when I was an early podcaster. My why power around this is just a lot higher than it used to be. And I think that is something to be said about the fear of judgment. One of the best stories ever for this. I was walking through the airport, Alan and I, one time. And I don't remember where we were. I think we were in Arizona, maybe. And there was a gentleman walking in front of me. And his briefcase fell open. And there was a bunch of stuff that fell out of it. That can be really embarrassing. Right? There could be a lot of judgment when you're literally in the middle of the terminal and there are people walking around you, running around you, dragging their bags over your stuff. And I stopped and helped the guy. And after, I had this interesting perspective of my why power was about helping him, not doing something for myself. The necessity was really high, and I wasn't self-conscious, I was others conscious. And I wasn't fearing judgment at all. I wasn't worried about what people thought about me. I was more worried about helping that gentleman clean up his mess. Okay, there's something to be said about that why power. The power of digging to the depths of why you're actually doing something. So that's one thought. And that's helped me tremendously. There's going to be people that don't like it. There's going to be people that don't understand it. I understand it, and I know the right people and the people that I want to help will understand it. That is a muscle that you develop over time. It does not happen immediately, but I think it's easier to not take it personally when you understand that the vast majority of people aren't going to vibe with your content anyway, because they're not supposed to. If you're not a podcaster, I don't really expect you to take any value from this. This is for podcasters. So let's say there's 100 people in a room, 3 of them are podcasters, 97% of people are going to pass on this. They're going to say, it's not for me. Yeah, no, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be for you. And I've learned to take that less and less personally over time. That's one thing. The second thing is, and again, this took me a long time to get to, people are judging your current capabilities. People are judging your current content. People are judging your current skill set. But when you look back, if you keep going and you podcast for another year, another 2 years, another 5 years, you're going to look back at your old content and you're going to judge it too. I guarantee it. Now, I'm not saying you have to beat yourself up, but you're going to grow. When I go back and listen to an episode from 5 years ago, it is painful. Just like this episode will be painful for me to listen to 5 years from today. The hard part about that is the people that are judging aren't most likely going to be here 5 years from today. So they're not going to realize how incredible you've become. We're only seeing a single blip in time, and that's what is being judged. But there is so much room for growth. Here's the thing. You most likely would have judged what I did 5 years ago, but you weren't here to see it because there weren't that many people here to see it. But now there's more people, and I've continued, and I've hopefully gotten better, and I've worked on my skills, and I've grown a ton. And I think that's the biggest piece, and that's the lesson for everyone. Yeah, today there might be some level of judgment to the content you're creating, but if you keep going, in theory, there will be less judgment for that reason, probably. Especially if the reason is you're just not that good yet. I mean, that's something you can work on. If you're doing a true crime podcast, there are people that will never like that no matter how good you get. Okay, that's something we're always going to have to work against. But the skill development piece, I think that is a massive piece of it. If you can sit with yourself and say, yeah, I understand why somebody might judge it right now because I've only been doing this for a year, but in 4 or 5 years, I'll probably look back and realize that this probably wasn't as good as I thought it was. And I think that's empowering as hell. I don't think that's a negative mindset. I don't think that's self-deprecation. I don't think that's you beating yourself up. I think that's you admitting and having the admittance factor of, yeah, I've gotten better. If you look back on your content from 5 years ago and you're not embarrassed, that means you haven't grown a ton. And at least that's my belief, at least. So that's something that's really helped me a lot is right now, this is where I'm at. And there might be some people out there that judge that. But in a couple of years, I'm going to be better than I am today. And I've gotten messages from people that were around 5 years ago that check in and say, wow, you guys have come a long way. They might have judged back in the day, but they're not judging in the same way. I'm not saying they're not judging. That's a truth that I think most people aren't willing to tell you. There always will be judgment. Always, 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 always. Because when you are walking outside of a restaurant, you look at it and you judge whether or not it's safe to go in there and eat. And maybe if you're walking in and you see a cockroach run across the floor, your judgment call is, I'm going to head on over to a different place. Judgment isn't always bad. I think judgment for a lot of us is just categorization. Categorization? Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. We're putting things into a certain order. That's for me, that's not for me. That's a judgment, right? It's a judgment based on things that maybe we can't see. So I don't think the goal is to ever get to the point where you just don't fear judgment at all. I want to care what my wife thinks. I want to care what you think as the audience. I mean, it's important that I do that. I can't let it control everything I do, but I don't want to get to the place where I don't care about judgment at all. I don't think that's a good place to be. So I think this is more about coexisting than anything else. But that's kind of off on a tangent. The point I'm trying to make is in 5 years, your content's going to be way better than it is today. So a lot of the people judging might actually be accurate just based on where you are, and that's totally fine. The joke's on them if you keep going. Unfortunately, the joke's on you if you stop now, because that means they were right, and I assure you they don't have to be. And here's really where the biggest bottleneck kind of arises. I think as a podcaster, as a content creator in general, messy action is the answer. And all I mean by that is messy action is the ability to do something when you don't really know what you're doing. It's to go with a feeling, to go with a gut feeling, to go with a moment of courage and just do something. And That's how you start to build momentum. And here's the beautiful thing. A lot of us, the first piece of messy action we have as podcasters is starting the podcast. And now that it's public, and now that it's out there, and now that it's live, and now that it's published, we stop taking as much messy action because now there's people that will see it. But again, if you know it's messy action, you kind of expect to be judged. Imagine this. 2 thoughts. 1, somebody walks up to you and says, hey, let's do it this way. Your dream guest reaches out to you and says, hey, we were supposed to be on a podcast. We ended up canceling it, or the person canceled. We have a last minute opportunity for you. Do you want to have this person on? 2 thoughts. 1, I haven't prepped nearly as much as I want. So no, I'm not going to do it. 2, I'm going to take messy action and give it my best shot. The expectations are going to be different.
Hi, my name's John Laredo, and I just wanted to give a big shout out to Kevin Palmieri. I had reached out to him. He had been referred to me when I had shared with a friend of mine some interest in doing a podcast, and he said, you've got to use Kevin. He's fantastic. He's the best around. He'll get you started and off the ground and soaring high. Kevin was phenomenal in terms of leading me through the whole process, and not just easy to work with, but really, really knows his stuff. So whether you're looking for somebody to help you and get you started, or somebody, as I've done, where I'm putting it entirely in his hands because I've got total trust and confidence in him, any of those ends of the spectrum, you're going to have a lot of success and a lot of fun working with Kevin. Trust me. Thanks.
So the expectations of, well, I'm taking messy action, this could go bad, at least you're going in aware of that. Now, you're going to have time to prep, and you can do the best you can, and who knows, even your messy action might be better than somebody else's perfect shot, but then you build belief that way, and you build familiarity with uncertainty, and there's something to that. A lot of the biggest opportunities that I've had the privilege of taking on, I've had to say, I'm not exactly sure how to do that yet, but I know I can figure that out, given enough time. That's really what I'm talking about when it comes to messy action. I'm not saying step on stage with no idea of what you're going to talk about. That's not necessarily the answer. That's a dangerous place to live. But I think your messy action can be directly connected to the level of belief you have in yourself, and I think that's a constructive way to grow. Because eventually, if you get to the place where, let me use an example of this. Okay. This is a podcast about podcasts. Okay. In the beginning, we took messy action with thumbnails on YouTube. Then we took a different level of messy action. Now I'm taking a new level of messy action that's most likely going to get changed in a year. Yeah, if you only tuned in the beginning, you would maybe think I didn't know what I was doing. Understandable. Yeah, I get it. I can understand that completely. If you tune in right now, you might say, well, Kevin keeps changing the way they do the thumbnails or the intro, whatever. He doesn't know what he's doing. But I'm testing things through messy action to figure out what works best. So yeah, in a minute, in this moment, in the vacuum of this, it might seem like it's judgment worthy, but I'm learning from that and I'm growing from that. And it's the same for you. So I think when it comes to judgment, just in general, having the mindset of, I'm doing this for me and my own growth and my own value and my own fulfillment and my own joy and my own experience first. Because then you are stacking all of those valuable things, all of those valuable reasons and results, as opposed to just somebody who just doesn't vibe with what you're doing. And then I would connect all of that to, what about the judgment are you actually afraid of? Is it the fact that the person's right? Okay, that's something we got to dig into. Is it the fact that people are going to look at you differently? Okay, what if they should? If you went from somebody who never talks about a certain thing to always talks about a certain thing, you should want some people to look at you differently because you are different and your identity is shifted. Okay, I'm going to lose people. Oh, okay. Okay, well, let's sit with that. I'm going to be villainized by people. Okay. People are going to think I'm too much. Okay. Those are all very, very valid reasons. But we have two options. One, we just say, you know what? I'm going to play small. Screw it. I'm just going to play small. And I'm not going to do what I love, and I'm not going to share the message I want to share. Or the fear of judgment is there, and it most likely always will be there. And here's the truth. The fear of judgment gets higher as you climb higher. But I think the why power, I think the self-belief, I think the confidence, I think the assurance can also grow, as you get higher in terms of success. I'm way less afraid of judgment now than I was in the beginning. But I never would have got to the place where I am today if I stopped. I had to keep going in order to get here. And that is the paradox. Last story before I let you go. I don't want to take your whole day. I'll never forget this. Never, ever, ever. Before I was a podcast coach and had a podcast production company and all that stuff, I was a mindset coach, which is why I always talk about mindset here. I enjoy it very much. And I remember having such imposter syndrome and so much fear of judgment around the fact that if anybody found out that I didn't have a formal education or whatever it was, they would think I was a fraud, or they would think I was stupid, or I wasn't qualified. And I'll never forget, somebody reached out to me and DM'd me on Instagram. And they said, hey, I don't mean this to be rude or condescending or mean, but what gives you the qualifications to be a coach? And I think we were probably, I don't know, maybe 200 or 300 episodes in at this point. And I remember thinking my biggest fear just came true. Somebody is going to find out I'm an imposter, and I'm going to get crushed by their fear of judgment. Until I sat with it. And I had to sell myself on why that fear of judgment wasn't real, and had to sell myself on why I wasn't an imposter. And I sent them a message back, and I said, well, I appreciate the fact that this isn't toxic or coming from a negative place. I said, at this point, I have recorded 300 podcasts on self-improvement, and mindset is a huge piece of that. I've read a lot of books. I mean, I've worked on myself every day over the last however many years. It was probably 3 years, maybe, something like that. I've had the opportunity to coach people, so I actually have dipped my toes into what working with a human is like. I've interviewed some of the most successful people on the planet at this point for our podcast. And I think most importantly, I've taken myself from somebody who is suicidal to quite literally living my dreams. And that's what I aspire to do with other people. And then maybe the most important thing is I also know I don't have all the answers. So I'm not going to tell someone I can take them from where they are to where they want to get to in a week, a month, a year. I think I have the humility to understand that I don't have all the answers. Even as a podcaster, I don't have all the answers. I might have more answers than the average person does, maybe a lot more than the average person does, but I don't have all of them. And I sent that message back to them. And I expected an argument or a battle or whatever. And they said, oh, thank you so much for taking the time to write all this out. Makes total sense. I had worked this up into my brain that this was going to be the end of me. I was going to be found out. This fear of judgment was going to crush me. When in reality, my deepest fear came true, and then I was able to prove my deepest fear wrong. This is what I'm curious about. I wonder how many of us who are really dealing with the fear of judgment have actually been judged. Now, I'm not saying you haven't, right? But I can count on both of my hands the number of times somebody has just come out and like judged me based on the fact that I was a podcaster or an episode that I've done. Maybe I'm lucky in that, I don't know. It's just like anything else when it comes to fear. The only way around it is through it. So if you're afraid of heights, either you avoid heights forever or you start on a ladder and then you go to whatever, right? You start on a ladder and then you go to a taller ladder and a taller ladder, and then maybe you go on some bleachers and then you work your way up, or you avoid it forever. I think fear of judgment's the same thing. Can you really get over the fear of judgment without experiencing judgment? That might be the $1 million question. So, wrapping up today. Your work today is probably going to seem subpar if you continue going. I think that just is the way it is. That's growth. When you were young and you were doing finger painting, you're probably more capable today than you were when you were younger. You just have evolved. I think it's the same thing with this. maybe not as drastic, but your skill set will improve. Messy action is a cheat code. And the only way really to utilize it is to, one, start very small. I always suggest that. And then two, understand that messy action is messy. So the opportunity for failure is higher inherently. At least that expectation can help us. And then three, the big one that we just kind of wrapped up and talked through. I don't know if you can really change your relationship with judgment until you experience judgment. So maybe the takeaway for this episode would be find the spot that you feel the most comfortable in life and go seek judgment there. So for me, let's say it's fitness. What could I do? I could do a photo shoot. Like, I feel like, okay, I'm somebody who's very confident when it comes to fitness. Let me go do a photo shoot. If somebody was to judge that, it wouldn't really affect me that much because I put a lot of time into this and I've overcome judgment a lot over the years. So maybe start somewhere where you've already worked through the fear of judgment. Maybe it's parenting. If you're a parent out there, you've probably had to work through the fear of judgment. Your little one screaming at the park or screaming on a plane or whatever it is, you've let that go a long time ago because it's not about you. And the little one's little. They don't know what they're doing. So that's something you probably have worked through. So where can we cross over something that you're already really good at overcoming judgment into this podcasting, social media, content, public-facing space? There's some place in life that you're way better at this than I am, for sure. It just might not be this yet, and that's totally fine. Again, 3,000 episodes of experience. It's different. You have 3,000 episodes of experience in something else. So maybe we can use that as a crutch to start. I'll say a railing to start. Build some momentum up, build some belief up, and then we can kind of take it from there. That's my thoughts today for episode number 144. Don't let the fear of judgment be the thing that kills your podcast. Because if that's the case, it's most likely going to kill a lot of the other dreams you have and the aspirations you have. And I don't want that for you. I want to see you succeed. All right. As always, the link below will be there for a free 30-minute podcast breakthrough session. If you're struggling with the fear of judgment and you don't know how to work through it, let's chat. I will help you create some tactics. And I can help you fear chase judgment with you. In some way, shape, or form. I know everything's virtual, but I'll find a way to help you do it. We can do an Instagram Live or something, whatever it is. I'll help you do it. So I'm more than happy to do that. I love doing stuff like that. So the link will be in the show notes for that. And if you are a podcaster who is looking to level yourself up, level your podcast up, and then turn your podcast into some level of a business, we have a group coaching program starting on April 15th. So it is a 12-week program all about personal development in the beginning, then podcasting and tips and tricks and all that stuff, growth, monetization, bada bing, bada boom. And then the tail end of it is focused on business. So if you're somebody who resonates with this content, we cross over the self-improvement, podcast, and business acumen all into one, what is now being called the Next Level Podcast Accelerator. Will that be it? I don't know. I don't know if that name is going to be forever, but that is something we have coming up on April 15th, and it is very, very affordable. I can give you a discount code, and it ends up being $96 a month, and you get 4 calls per month. So it's less than $25 per call. That is a bargain. And you'll leave with habits, a way to track your habits, so many things. So again, I'm not going to try to hard sell you on it, but the link will be in the show notes. We would love to have you join if you're somebody who is interested or intrigued by that. I hope your fear of judgment is less than it has been. I hope that your audience is self-identifying. And I hope you really believe in what you're doing. Because if you really believe in what you're doing, you can work through a lot of stuff that somebody who is just doing it for shallow reasons just can't. Until next week, keep on crushing it, keep on podcasting, and I will talk to you all then.